Hey Raider Nation, Mark Mize here bringing you this week's installment of the Richland High School Coaches Corner Show sponsored by PES. We're here alongside Richland assistant coach Troy Hughes, and Troy, it's great to have you here as always.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks. Good to be back here.
Well, looking at this past week's game, Richland fell 36-27 to Mount Pleasant. So overall, just looking at the performance, of course you had the fall break leading up to this game. How'd you feel overall about what you saw from the guys?
Well, going into the week, Mark, being on fall break's never a good sign going into a week. We were missing some players, had some guys out for one reason or another during the week of practice. There were days when we had 16 here, I believe, on Monday, and then toward the end of the week, we were back up to pretty close to having everybody at practice with 27 or 28 at practice. So it wasn't a great week of practice by any means as far as numbers go. Now we felt like the ones that were here, we really got better and concentrated on what they were going to try to do offensively and went over offensive plays, and the core group was here for the most part. So, even though the numbers were down, we still felt like we had a pretty good week of practice leading up into the game.
And, of course, had what seemed to be a pretty decent crowd considering the fact that obviously on fall break you expect to have a few less, you'd assume.
Right. Pleased with the crowd. To be honest, we anticipated not having very many here, due to the fact of it being fall break, and Mount Pleasant was 0-7. We'd struggled quite a bit this year, and also the rain coming in Friday morning, we kind of felt like, boy, it's not going to be very many people at the game, but it was a pretty good turnout, and pleased with the people that came out to support the kids.
I think one of the biggest storylines from this week's game was the fact that the rushing game was back versus Mount Pleasant. Team rushed for over 300 yards, and Caleb Briggs looked about as good as he has in several weeks, had 166 yards and a touchdown.
Right. Now, Caleb really struggled. He didn't practice all week, and he's still nowhere near 100%. But he's grinding it out, and he wants to be on the field, and he's going to give you everything he's got when he's out there. But he's nowhere near healthy. So with that being said, up front, we've really done an exceptional job, probably the best job we've done all year of blocking up front. We got after those guys. We blocked pretty well, and it was evident, by being able to rush the football and gain some yards, even though they were putting 7-8 guys in the box.
And then it looked like Gus McGowan and Tyler Young had pretty strong days as well. Gus McGowan actually had his third 100-yard rushing game of the year and scored his team-leading 8th and 9th touchdowns.
Right, which was very impressive for us, and that says a lot about our offensive line. Now, Gus runs the football hard, and he's a good runner and done a really good job, but that just adds to the fact that we felt like as a coaching staff we blocked well up front, and we didn't have a lot of variety in what we were doing. Of course, if you're having success, you're not going to change, and we were having success with 3 or 4 different plays, and we kind of stuck with that all night and were able to gain positive yards for the most part.
And then the one thing that still has been a bit of a struggle for Richland is the snapping issues. I believe you had at least 3 different centers take snaps this year.
I believe we're on our 4th center from the beginning of July, or when we started practice. We're on our 4th center now, and just have not been able to find any consistency at the center position. And it's a difficult position, especially for a guy that's never played center. It's a lot of responsibility, and obviously your first responsibility is to get a good snap back to the quarterback, and then you still have responsibilities after that. You're responsible for blocking a guy, and at times we get carried away with thinking about who we're supposed to block and getting to our guy to block him, and we're not getting good snaps. And then if we sometimes it is a pretty good snap, our quarterback mishandles it. So we've just had major issues with that all year, and after the game, you look back, and of course, during the course of a game, you go from one play to the next play, and from that play to the next play. But then when you go back and watch the game film, and I want to say we had between 18 and 22 mishandled snaps during the course of the game, which all resulted in negative yards for the most part. And, it's just tough to sustain a drive when you have at least 1 out of every 4 snaps hitting the ground or being mishandled, and we've struggled with that all year, and we've worked on it, and it's just been something that's been our Achilles heel so far this year, and we're actually going to do something a little different this week to try to cut down on that, and hopefully it'll give us a little more advantage Friday night.
It seems like a team with your offensive identity, it's especially troublesome because obviously being a team that runs very well in chunks, but when you get behind those chains and don't pass the ball very often, it seems like it's hard to make up that lost yardage.
Right, without a question, and it seems like the mishandled snaps are at the most unopportune time. If it's 1st and 10 and you lose 2 yards, it's not the end of the world. We feel like we can gain those back in the next 3 downs, but if it's 3rd and 1 and you have a mishandled snap, now it's 4th and 7, it's difficult to compensate for that and to make up those yards. So, and as you mentioned, we don't throw the ball a whole lot and not been very consistent throwing the football. So when we have a mishandled snap and we end up with 2nd and 15 or 3rd and 18, we're going to run the football. And at times we've picked up first downs, even though the other team knows we're going to run the football and it's 3rd and 15. We've been successful at times picking up first downs, but you're just not going to be consistent, gaining 15, 18 yards on 3rd and 18 when you're running the football.
And so looking defensively now, seems like at times your defense had a pretty good game. How'd you feel about what you saw from Tez Rogers and how your defense was able to kind of counteract their strong rushing game?
Well, going into the game, obviously we knew what Mount Pleasant was going to try to do, and we worked all week on their best 4 or 5 plays and trying to shut those down. And for the most part, felt like we were pretty consistent and done a pretty good job of that. This is a team that the week before scored 60 points against Grace Christian, so we knew they were capable of putting up big points and big chunks of yardage. The thing that they really did that hurt us the most Friday night was, and I refer to it as backyard football maybe. They'd run an offensive play and we'd have guys in position and we'd even have guys wrapped up making a tackle, and they would lateral the ball back just as a last heave just before they got tackled. And I think it's something that Mount Pleasant, I won't say they work on it, but they've done it during the course of the year. They always had a guy, seems like, behind the guy carrying the ball. So it's something that they've done quite a bit. And, the first drive of the ball game, it's 3rd down and we tackle them for a loss, or we have them wrapped up for a loss, which would have made it 4th and 30 from the 20-yard line. And Rogers pitches, or the quarterback pitches it back to Rogers, and he goes 82 yards for a touchdown. And that was a situation, those things you can't practice. You can't practice on during the week. As a coaching staff, we thought they might do it. We didn't know how much they would do it, but we knew we had seen them do it before. And we really didn't mention it to the kids, because it wasn't something that they really practice. It's just something that happens. And, unfortunately for us, that first drive of the game, we feel like we had a great stand. We've got them tackled, and they lateral it back, and the guy goes 82 yards for a touchdown, and that was really deflating. Even though it was the first drive of the ball game, we felt like we made a great stand early, and it ends up an 82-yard touchdown. So, other than that, defensively, we had some breakdowns here and there and some missed tackles. Tez Rogers is a big physical running back, and he made us miss a couple times, and then he ran through some tackles. But all in all, I thought it was a little better effort from the defense of trying to get to the football and tackle the guy. It was just a situation where sometimes he just ran through us. He was a little bit bigger. I think he was probably, 215, 220, 225, and when he got a head of steam up, he was hard to bring down.
And then looking at the halftime adjustments, did you change some things up at halftime? Because obviously, having given up 30 points in the first half, they only gave up 6 in the second half and actually stopped them on the final 4 drives of the game when your offense was trying to pull back into contention.
Well, we didn't make a whole lot of adjustments at halftimes. Coach Moose came in and said, hey, either we're going to lay down and quit, or we're going to go back out and we're going to finish this thing up, and we're going to do what we've been coached to do, and we're going to get after them and make tackles. He kind of challenged the guys and got on them pretty good, which is what a coach is supposed to do. You go in at halftime and you feel like you got a chance to win the ball game. You got to get ready to go out and compete that second half, especially when you're behind on the scoreboard. It's easy to lay down, and as coaching staff, we got on them a little bit and said it's not X's and O's, it's execution. You're in the right position. Let's just start making tackles, and we got after it a little bit better in the second half, and made some tackles that we were missing in the first half, and it worked out for us that we held them down a little bit in the second half.
And then finally, in the late third quarter, early fourth quarter period there, where you had a tough call on the field, obviously looked like a fumble. We actually ended up having photo evidence that it was. You guys didn't get the call, but came back early in the fourth quarter, a couple plays later, and forced the turnover. How did you feel about your team's resilience to fight through sometimes what might have been a few bad calls?
Well, that's something that we've been faced with all year, is adversity. And Coach Moose has stressed, whether it's everyday life, whether it's the football game, no matter what the situation is, at some point in your life you're going to be faced with adversity. And Coach Moose does a good job of not only trying to coach these kids up on the game of football, but trying to coach them up on the game of life too. And he's really stressed that no matter who you are, you're going to face some type of adversity during the course of your life. So, we work on that. But, we talk about it on a weekly basis about being able to deal with adversity and when things are not going your way, how you handle it. And that was evident Friday night. There was a few calls, as it has been all year, whether it be somebody scoops up a fumble and carries it back for a touchdown, or there's a call that doesn't necessarily go our way that we felt like it should have. And the kids, the kids have responded to what Coach Moose has talked to them about all year is, when adversity shows its face, and then you got to step right back up and be willing to accept what has happened and move forward, and that's what we've tried to do, and I thought that's what we did Friday night. The kids, it had been easy at that point of the game just to lay down and say, okay, that was a fumble and we didn't get the call, but they responded in a positive way, and I think a few plays later we actually did get them to turn the ball over. We stopped them on the drive and ended up getting the ball back, so that was very positive from the kids.
You're watching the Richland High School Football Coaches Corner Show, sponsored by PES. We'll be back in just a minute to preview this week's game versus Moore County.
I've got my closest friends over to watch the game on cable. Did you know you can advertise your local business during this cable program? Via Media represents the advertising for your cable system. They could put a TV commercial for you right here on this system during this show. Let Via Media help you. Call Via Media today or viamediatv.com. Here in Tennessee, when opportunity knocks,
First Farmers is here.
A full-service bank with deep roots.
First Farmers is here.
Loans to help businesses grow and families plan for the future.
First Farmers is here.
The technology you need to manage your personal finances.
First Farmers is here.
As Middle Tennessee continues to grow, First Farmers, we're here.
Here at First Baptist Pulaski, we are not perfect people. To perhaps consider this is terrible. Start that again. You're going to delete all these, right? Don't keep these.
Fellowship's the word I was looking for. Doofus. Yeah, you put that in the reel.
And this is still rolling. Oh, for the outtakes.
But we would love for you to join us in worshiping a perfect God.
#struggle, right?
Hi, I'm Mark Mize. Welcome back to the Richland High School Football Coaches Corner Show, sponsored by PES. We're here alongside Richland assistant coach Troy Hughes. We just got done breaking down last week's game versus Mount Pleasant, and now we're going to look forward toward this week's upcoming road contest against Moore County. So just what are your initial thoughts, Coach, about what you'll be seeing from Moore County on Friday?
Well, Moore County has not had a lot of success this year, and Coach Moose and I discussed this last week. I believe they've won 2 football games on the year. And they are, as far as rankings, strength of schedule rankings in the state of Tennessee, I think they've played the second toughest schedule in the state of Tennessee as far as 1A football. And Richland here, we played the 9th toughest schedule in the state as far as 1A football. So, to say Moore County is not a very good football team, they're a pretty good football team, even though their record doesn't really reflect it because of the strength of schedule they've played during the course of the year. And we've played a lot of common opponents. Obviously, we're in the same region, so we've played a lot of the same folks. Going into the week, we know that Moore County's going to be physical. They run a wing T offense, and they run it pretty well. it's not something that we haven't seen this year. You know, we had a few scrimmage games earlier where Cascade ran the wing T offense, and you know, we played a team or two. Sail Creek ran a variation of the wing T offense, so it's an offense that we're familiar with defensively. We haven't seen it in the past 4 or 5 weeks, so we're having to go back and familiarize the kids with their responsibilities and what they're supposed to do. Now, with that being said, we've got, you know, I believe from the first game of the season to week 8 here, I think we've got, I want to say it's 5 guys that were on the starting defense at that time that are no longer playing defense, either due to injury or soreness, or we had to move them to offense. So we're pretty much a completely different team defensively than what we were, you know, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago. So we're having to teach some guys some new positions, which makes it a little difficult, especially with the wing T. It's a tough offense to prepare for, but you know, we're trying to get them ready for Friday night.
And it seems like they've had kind of a lack of consistency this year as a team. Obviously, they come in and they beat Grace Christian, which, although their record may not reflect it, seems to be one of the better teams in this region.
Right.
And then, of course, got beaten pretty badly last week by Huntland.
Right.
You talked about that Grace Christian game, them getting great pressure against Austin Moore and that really strong Grace Christian offense. How do you plan to counteract that as a team?
Right. Well, and it wasn't so much the fact that Moore County beat Grace Christian. It was that they held Grace Christian to 20 points, which nobody else in the region's been able to do all year. You know, they held them down. And for the most part, what Moore County did against Grace Christian was they sold out and they sent the house after the quarterback, and they were able to get pressure on him and force some bad throws and able to sack him several times, which nobody else has been able to do all year. Now, it's going to be a little bit different because we don't throw the football. So, you know, they're going to have to line up a little bit different, and they're going to have a different game plan against us. But you know, even though I don't think they're going to be able to do anything defensively to us that nobody else has been able to do all year. I mean, for the most part, everybody said we're putting 8 in the box and we're going to stop the run. And with that being said, that's pretty much all they can do. They can put 8 in the box. They know we're going to run it. And with that being said, we still had a little success, you know, running the football during the course of the year. And we feel like that's what they're going to attempt to do. And I'll be honest, you know, we put in some wrinkles this week. We're going to do some things different and to try to catch them by surprise, some things we haven't shown all year. For the first time all year, we're going under center. We've settled in with freshman Caleb Payne at center and Braxton Woodard at quarterback. And we probably took 75 to 100 snaps from under center yesterday going through our plays, and we may have had 2 mishandled snaps. So we feel pretty good about going into Friday night, being able to get the center quarterback exchange, we've got it taken care of, and hopefully that'll benefit us, you know, as far as running the football and even some of the other things we're going to try to do Friday night.
And more than just what you'll see against Moore County, how do you feel about how your team has developed offensively at this point in the season? And really, just what are your strengths at this point?
Well, you know, it's a blue collar offense. I mean, there's no flash to it. You know, we're going to line up and we're going to run it off tackle right, and then we're going to run it off tackle left, and then we're going to every now and then run a counter play, a little misdirection, run counter. So you know, it's pretty much when people are getting ready to play us, they've got to prepare for really and truly 3 plays, and that's you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of plays. That's very few number of plays, and so it's not hard to prepare for us. And with that being said, we've still had success. So you really have to feel good about what the kids have been able to do as far as lining up in front of somebody, and they know we're going to run the football right here, and we're still able to get, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, and that's very positive for us. Now this week we're throwing a couple things in there that'll be new, and we like to think they're touchdown plays. and we've got to call them at the right time because we do feel like they're going to be a touchdown. So, if we can execute those plays along with what we've been able to do as far as being consistent running the football, not mishandle snaps, and everything be a positive, whether it's 1 yard, that's still better than losing 7. So if we can do that and we can and have some success with a new wrinkle or two that we've thrown in, we feel like we got a pretty good shot at winning the football game on Friday night.
And so finally, what do you think is the biggest key overall to Richland picking up that first region win since 2012?
Just being consistent, doing the same things that we've been doing the last 2 or 3 weeks, playing every snap like it's your last. And we've been doing that. We've really, on the offensive line, we've lined up and we've blocked people better. Of course, Briggs being a little more healthy maybe this week will help us out. Gus McGowan being healthy will help us out. Hopefully we get Jimmy Hickman back sometime this week, which is another running back. Trey Stacy's going to come back and run the football some Friday night for us, which had some success early before his injury. So we feel like we're, I won't say as healthy as we've been all year, but we've got everybody back to some degree. Now, whether or not they're 100% healthy is a different story, but as far as our numbers go and having our backup guys ready to go, we feel like we're in pretty good shape there, minus Dan Hinkle, which is out for the season. We should have everybody back for Friday night, which should help us. Defensively, we got to tackle. They're going to run the wing T, and they've got a couple of decent running backs. They've got a big physical fullback that they like to give the ball to, and we've got to tackle him. And then we've got to play our responsibilities on defense and make sure we're in the right place. And then when we're there in the right place, make sure we make tackles.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm Mark Mize alongside Richland assistant coach Troy Hughes, and you've been watching the Richland Coaches Corner Show, sponsored by PES.